Okay, initial impressions on the new Ducati Monster 937. So when I'm sitting on the motorcycle, I feel the seat is more plush, my butt is more comfortable, and my leg position, I think the foot peg on this one is a little taller, because of which my leg position may feel a little cramped. We'll see how that rolls out when we get moving. Tank, 14-liter fuel tank, 2 liters less compared to the previous generation of 821. Handlebars, it's wide enough. I think it hits the sweet spot between more wider handlebars of the Hypermotard and maybe shorter ones of the Panigale. So I think this is the sweet spot in my opinion. Mirrors, so I like the mirrors. It's big, it's visible. Plus, okay, I like these mirrors because when I'm going on a ride, when I'm stopping in between, I like to put the helmet on this one. It doesn't fall out. It doesn't fall out. There was a point of time when I kept the helmet on the tank or on the seat, and what happened was that a wind blew and the helmet fall down, damage close to 400 ringgit to replace the visor. So back to the mirrors. I like the mirrors. I like the width of the handlebars. It's perfect. Ride-by-wire throttle, 4.3-inch TFT dash, and good thing, got a fuel gauge on this one, and it has got all kinds of riding modes on this one. So right now I'm in urban. I'm going to move to touring. I can select the touring. I selected the touring. I can go to sport if I want to. I selected the sport, but you know, I'm riding through the traffic, so I'm going to dial it back to urban and leave it there. Point is, it is similar to what you get in Hypermotard, but Hypermotard does not get a fuel gauge. This one has got a fuel gauge. It's got traction control, wheelie control, ABS, quick shifter up and down as standard on this one. No adjustability on the forks. Okay, it's not a bummer. When we ride through the traffic, we'll get to see how it is going to behave, but that's the initial impression on the new Monster 937. Similar instrument cluster what you get in Hypermotard as well as in the Scrambler. If you like to know how to operate the dash and change the riding modes, I have got videos on that on my channel. Feel free to check that out. In the description I'll put the details. What else would I like to talk about before I fire it up? Yeah, no wind protection in the front. It means that the wind buffeting on this one is going to be a little too much. We'll see that when we get to open the throttle, the wind buffeting is too much or not. More inclined riding position, semi-aggressive riding position on this one, and the leg, maybe it's a little cramped. For me, I'm 5'10" with the boots on, and for my legs I feel like it's a little cramped. We'll see how the bike feels as we go forward. We talked about the wind buffeting, no wind protection, inclined riding position. I think will help with it. So let's fire it up. So when I'm ripping the throttle, when I'm opening the throttle, the light flashes. I'm not really sure why it is. The exhaust sounds okay. When I flip it twice, it only goes up one. I'm not really sure what is wrong, but maybe that's how the ride-by-wire throttle is set up. So without further ado, let's go out and get rolling.
I want to take a moment to thank Ducati Kualalumpur or Madani Bikes, especially the gentleman Mr. Hasrul, who helped me in availing this motorcycle today for performing a test ride.
open up the throttle, there is no wind buffeting on this one, at least on the speed which I'm going right now. I think the inclined riding position helps with it. So we're going to hit a toll booth. There is a separate space for motorcycle to squeeze through without paying the tolls. It's narrow, but it works for the motorcyclists. This is what I was talking about. So I'm used to keep my finger on the brake lever as well as the clutch lever. I think wind buffeting is okay. It's not too much. I really think the inclined riding position help with lesser wind buffeting. So let's get that out of the way. The throttle is not snappy. The throttle is it's sharp. Don't get me wrong, the throttle is sharp, but it's not snappy, it's not too intimidating, it is manageable. And let's talk about the tires on this one. The tires on this one is Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3, and it's a really good road tire. And if you want to take it for occasional track, I think that will help with that too. And the brakes, I think the brakes on this one is lifted from hypermotard. The engine on this one is lifted from hypermotard. So let's talk about the brakes. The brakes is good. It's got a bite to it, especially the front brake. We got 320 millimeter double disc 4-piston Brembo caliper with ABS in the front. It got 245 millimeter single disc 2-piston floating caliper with ABS at the rear. That provides plenty of stopping power to this motorcycle. Is it nimble? It is really nimble. There is no two questions about it. The Monster has lost its weight of 18 kilograms compared to the previous generation. 18. So it now compares with the weight of the Scrambler. Scrambler and this one has about, Scrambler is at 185 wet and this one is 188 wet. So we'll come back on the comparison to Scrambler later because of the price point. We'll talk that later. Testa Strata engine, which is lifted from hypermotard. Is it intimidating for new riders? It could be a little intimidating for the new riders. I still think that Ducati Scrambler will be the best motorcycle for brand new riders. This one can be a little intimidating for brand new riders, but with all the electronics on this one, it's perfectly okay. No problem whatsoever. You'll be in good hands as long as you promise to be on your best behavior. Okay, now the other thing which I want to talk about is there are two kinds of people. The first set of people thinks that Monster is the entry model to Ducati because this one has got a water-cooled engine. The second set of people thinks that Scrambler is the entry model to Ducati. I think with the new generation Scrambler, which has got ABS, which has got traction control, engine power selections and all of it, I think Ducati Scrambler is the entry model for Ducati, and I do not agree with people who thinks that Monster is the beginner model on Ducati. I'm sorry about that if I happen to offend somebody, but it's a personal thought. Freedom of expression. Now, we talked about the brakes. The brakes is really good. It has got a good feel to it. The tires is good. Runs on Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3. 17-inch in the front and 17 at the rear. Lightweight wheels. It losing about 18 kilograms is a good thing from the previous generation. We talked about the two kind of people, right? There are another set of two kinds of people. The first set thinks that this is not a Monster anymore. Why? Because it has lost its steel trellis frame. This one don't have a steel trellis frame. This one has an aluminum composite subframe. So the two sets of people are one who thinks that this new version of Monster is not a Monster at all. The second set of people thinks that this is a new and improved version of the new Monster. I think I agree with the second set of people. I think I agree with the second set of people who thinks that this is a new and improved version of the Monster. So, losing weight, having more horsepower and torque at your disposal is a good thing in my opinion. It's a really good thing in my opinion. When I'm opening the throttle, I think the wind buffeting on this one is not too much. It is properly manageable. It has got no issues at all. The inclined semi-aggressive riding position on this one helps with reducing the wind buffeting on this one. So I like everything about the new Monster 937. More power, less weight. What more do you want? That's one thing. Price. We'll talk about that later. I'm not really sure, but Ducati has fiddled around with the gearbox on this one, because I feel the gear shifts on this one is a little better compared to Hypermotard. The quick shifter, the additional quick shifter on top of a smoother gearbox is always welcome. The exhaust on this one is a little muffled. That's a stock exhaust, but if you like to have a better sounding exhaust, you can always add the Terminioni, no problem. Is it stable? It is stable. Is it intimidating for new riders? It's not intimidating for new riders. With all the driver assists and everything, I think it's perfectly okay. Even though I think Scrambler is a beginner's Ducati for people who want to start out with a Ducati, specifically Ducati. Okay, now time to talk about thing which I do not like on this one. The thing which I do not like on this one is more higher foot pegs on this one. The seat is really good. The seat is plush. The seat feels great. I think I can do long distances on this one compared to Hypermotard or Scrambler. I feel the seat is more wider on this one, but the foot pegs on this one is a little too high for my height. It got a standard seat height of 820 millimeters, and you can lower that to 800 millimeters. And if you're still vertically challenged, there is a lower suspension kit which will help to bring down the seat height to 790 and 775 millimeters. So if you're one of those riders who is vertically challenged, this is a perfect motorcycle for you. If there are vertically challenged riders out there who is considering Scrambler, you should look at this motorcycle. Why should the prospective Scrambler buyer should look at this motorcycle if you're not planning to take the Scrambler off-road? It's because when this motorcycle came to Malaysia brand new, it was retailing around 69,900 ringgit. That is the price which a Scrambler night shift and full throttle is going for right now. What is the price on this one right now in Malaysia? The price on this one in Malaysia is 75,900 if I remember correctly. So the reason why I'm telling the prospective buyers of Scrambler to consider this is because, and if you are not planning to take the Scrambler off-road, it's because you are getting 40 more horsepower, better tire, better brakes on the Monster. You're getting 40 more horsepower, close to 40 horsepower on this one compared to the Scrambler for what? 5,000 ringgit? In US dollars, that's $1,000. Close, right? So if there are prospective Scrambler buyers out there, and if you're not planning to take that Scrambler off-road, you should definitely check out and test ride the Monster. It's lightweight, it's got more power, it's got all the electronics which you would ever want. So before you throw in your money on the Scrambler, I really want you to test ride the Monster. Before you throw in your money. So coming back to the things which I don't like on this one is, one, I already talked about the higher foot pegs. So I think this motorcycle will perfectly fit for somebody somewhere in between 5'4" to 5'8". Okay, so the second thing which I don't like on this motorcycle, the exhaust is on the side. I feel like there is a little too much heat coming from the exhaust. For me as a rider, that's an unpleasant thing. The reason why I'm saying I want to call that out, because if I'm a rider and my feet is more forward oriented compared to the exhaust, think about if you have pillion rider on this one, the exhaust heat coming is a slight concern for me. But if you wear a boot, you probably may not feel that much of heat coming through. So that's the second thing which I don't like. The no adjustability on the forks on this one, do I like for this price point? Not really. Ducati should have offered some kind of adjustability. This is a 43 millimeter USD forks with no adjustability. Scrambler comes with a 41 millimeter Kayaba forks, again with no adjustability. So I think it would have been nice if Ducati would have offered some kind of adjustability. But if you're a sucker for this machine and want adjustable forks, you should definitely look at the Monster SP. Got All-ins in the front and the rear, fully adjustable forks and the shocks. The shocks on this one is only preload adjustability. So yeah, that's something which I think could have been better. Now let's talk about the competition of the motorcycle of the new Ducati Monster. The competition on the new Ducati Monster are one, Triumph Street Ripple. Street Ripple has horsepower figures about 124 horsepower, and it weighs almost around the same weight as the Monster. And the price on the Street Ripple, it is much lesser than this one. This one retails around 75,900 ringgit. I think Street Ripple you can get for around 60 to 65,000 ringgit if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but hey, Street Ripple offers you more power for the same weight. The next competitor on this one is KTM 890 Duke or Duke R, both of it produce around 124 horsepower, I think, and the wet weight is comparable, 189 wet if I remember correctly on the KTM, but that's a little more pricey. That retails around 83,300 ringgit if I remember correctly. The KTM 890 Duke car. So if Ducati would have provided adjustable forks and shocks on this one, I think the price would have gone to 83,000, and maybe that is the reason why Ducati kept non-adjustable forks and shocks on this one. So that's the competition on this one. There are more. The Japanese bikes. MT-09, Kawasaki Z900. Both of them offers better price point for similar performance. So if price is your concern, you can look at the Japanese alternatives. Remember I talked about there are two kinds of people, right? One who thinks that this is not a new Monster anymore, and because of losing the steel trellis frame, you know, I kind of agree with them a little bit over there. You know why? Because this Monster does not really turn heads. Like the previous Monster, it looks like it is a piece of the Ducati stable. This one, on the looks department, it kind of loses out. It's a bummer that it loses out on the looks department. It does not really turn heads compared to other Ducati models like Hypermotard, Street Fighter, you know, all of that. So it loses out on the look department, but more potent engine compared to the previous generation. You get more of a lightweight machine. So the handlebar is a sweet spot. I got to agree with that. I'm going to do something which I should not ideally do. I'm going to go through the footpath. It's a lot of people who tend to do this, but I'm going to get down here. So is that a part of being Malaysian Riders Association? I think yes. Okay, I think we almost came to the end of the traffic. So hopefully there is no more traffic situations as we go forward. last time. The riding position is the one which helps with reducing the wind buffeting. Quick shifter comes in as standard. Once you start getting used to the quick shifter, you would most definitely want to have it. Before you throw in your money on the Scrambler, please test ride this motorcycle. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be more than happy to explain. If I do not know the answer for that question, I'll try to get somebody who is knowledgeable on the topic to answer the questions. Hopefully you guys like the video. I want to create more quality contents as I go forward. Hopefully my videos will help one person or other in making their buying decision or avoid considering. As always, everybody, thank you for watching.